Hi, and thank you for joining me for the practice of clairaudio. So when you're practicing clairaudio, what we're intending is to create an opening of our third eye with the awareness of an expanded sense where we're tuning into sound as a knowing, but also as a frequency. So when we're starting to open up ourselves to practice clairaudio, what I want to encourage you to do is open up your heart connection and open up your third eye connection, and then get a sense of what sound is like for you on a psychic level. Sound is not what we're familiar with locationally. We'll feel it in this part of our body. We'll hear it in a sense of being in here. When we're practicing clairaudio is a combination of a knowing and a receiving. The clairaudio will have a sense of being out here. It's almost as if you're listening to sound out there, but you're matching the location. So you're giving your sense of an ability to connect into the different tones and pitches, amplitudes of the frequency, and then translating that. The sense of sound can be a knowing of a sound. The sense of sound can actually be a talking of the sound. And a sense of clairaudio can sometimes be a visual sense of words. So I would say clairaudio is one of the strongest ones that combines the different senses because it is what adds life to the senses. It's as if you're adding music to a movie. We have this story, we have the capture, and then the clairaudio is that part that comes back to life. So clairaudio, you'll find a lot of resonance with the heart connection because that's your center of knowing. So when you're working with clairaudio, it is really important that you drop out of this location that you are down here. With a sense of clairaudio, if we're too focused in here, we're going to be projecting into the sound. We're not going to be expanding back. So just like when we expanded back into our peripheral awareness, that will help us with clairaudio. Clairaudio is a sense of being able to receive a knowing that's translated into a different kind of frequency that is attuned with our psychic hearing. So one of the ways to encourage to practice this is I want you to encourage you to go outside, and I want you to encourage you to listen to all the different senses with your sound sense. So what you're doing is you are hearing the location, you are hearing the pitches, you are hearing a sense of where things are coming from so that you can get a sense of where your clairaudio comes in. Now, clairaudio can also be in a sense when we're tuning into animals, right? Sebastian, we can hear them, and it's almost as if you're like tuning a dial on a radio, that you're going to get a sense. Now each being that you're listening to is going to have a different pitch. So if you're listening to the trees, there's a different resonance where they're at in the frequency. So you might have to get used to scanning if you were like playing chords so that you're getting a sense of, okay, there's a resonant down here. I can hear it lower or I can hear it higher. So when you're playing with clairaudio and you're listening to the different sounds, also get a sense of their pitch and range, right? So we have the different notes where some are really intense, some are really slow, right? So those ranges, the amplitudes or the intensity of how they go up and down. And the tone is that how things are, whether they're short or long, right? So in these different ways that we're hearing the sound, clairaudio is a really strong way to have a listening communication with, with animals, with people psychically. We can almost get a sense of what we're talking intuitively. You can get a sense of just hearing the dialogue when you're working with spirits. So there is a lot of flexibility and a lot of applicability for playing with clairaudio. So this is one that I would encourage you to really work with because it is a really incredible form of communication where we can get a lot of message, we can get a lot of information. We can even use our pendulum as a yes and no with the clairaudio. So having a sense of where I hear, how I can turn up the volume, right? So getting into practicing turning up the volume and turning down the volume. If you are hearing, right, if let's say we're practicing listening to the trees and you get this like low rumble and you can't quite understand, you're kind of like, what is that? You can ask them to turn the pitch up. You can ask them to turn up the volume. You can ask them to slow down, right? You can ask them to slow down the amplitude so that you can get a sense of like each syllable, each word, those kind of things. So when I'm working it, I almost get a sense of like, what is it like to turn up the volume and what is it like to turn down the volume? So we have that when we're driving, right? You just listen to the radio, you turn it up and turn it down. So recreate that imagination within you. That will actually help to shift how you're hearing. And you may have to turn it down, turn it down, turn it down, turn it down, or up, 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 right? So each time you set the intention and then you experience the imagination of it, you're actually going to be shifting the energy. But remember, just like everything, this is about tracking it. So if you stay in connection, you will connect with and move the energy. So we cannot move energy we are not in connection with. So connection is everything with everything in energy. So when we are connecting, we're connecting here. We are receiving and listening and observing with our third eye. Now, if we're in the mental field listening, we can get a lot of information alongside with the clairaudio. If we're in the physical field listening, we're going to get a lot of information alongside the clairaudio, but they're going to be different types of information. So we may be, again, locationally in a lower part of our physical body. If we're in the physical field, we may be hearing a story of what was going on at that time when that knee was injured. Or if we're in clairaudio, we may hear more of what's going on in the outer field, right? So the mental field doesn't have so many boundaries like the physical field does. Emotional field, you may hear a lot of how the person felt. The clairaudio is a really good one for working with the mental field because you'll hear what's stored, what's stuck in your field. You'll hear the judgments, you'll hear the criticisms, you'll hear the joy, you'll hear the, it gives you a lot of information for the story, and often it's very clear. Whereas sometimes the psychic knowing, you get images and you have to then decipher what the images are. Clairaudio, you can hear judgment, you can hear the words. And again, if you are needing it to slow down, if you need it to tune up, if you need that, use your imagination. Again, practicing what it sounds like for you. What does high tone sound like for you psychically? So the practice is go out into nature and hear sounds, then recreate them within you so that you can get a sense of what internal sound feels like and hear and sounds like for you. So it's matching. So if I heard a bird outside, let's say I hear a raven and it's making these big, gurgling noises, which they do. They make all kinds of chirps and deep low throttle kind of sounds. Close your eyes and recreate that, but recreate that with a sense of being out here, not in here. So the sound that you're experiencing is out here, and that can even help you locationally. Like I can hear, like when I have spirits come in and they're talking, I can hear where they're talking at. So practice being in location, tracking what you're practicing hearing, and then recreate it and see what it's like for you to recreate in your internal senses and what that is like for you. Anytime you're working with other beings, always ask permission to connect so that, again, that connection is sacred, and you can ask them to talk to you. You can ask them to share messages with you. Notice again where you're tracking at, how it comes in. Is it muffled? Is it too low? Is it high? Notice how they communicate. So not all trees have the same kind of pitch. So you'll get some and you might get a really old looking tree with a really young voice, right? So don't judge what we're assuming is what. I've had, small little rocks have a huge loud voice, right? So they're their own beings. It is not what we assume as a judgment is a small object. So allow your heart to receive whatever it is and trust what you're sensing. So good job.